guys, I'm back with another video. This is going to be called Top 10 Most Brutal Methods of Execution in History. So I'm pretty sure I saw some kind of like disclaimer on this, like, you know, like just kind of caution or like be aware of what you're going to see in this video. So I'm mentally preparing myself as well, because I do not really want to watch this to be honest, but I mean, you guys want it, I'll watch it, you know? So it's obviously a suggestion, I'll let you know who suggested it, and let's go.
Did you know that blind people can dream that in York you can kill a Scot with a crossbow, that there are only 28 legal hairstyles in North Korea?
That's
We'll
random.
show you everything worth knowing. Throughout history, people have been punished for crimes they've committed by horrific methods of torture and executions. Today, these punishments seem so cruel, it's hard to believe they were used for centuries. Check out 10 of the most brutal methods of execution in history. Colombian necktie. During the 10-year-long civil war in Colombia, also known as La Violencia, there was a method of execution so terrifying it instilled fear into the hearts of all. This method was the infamous Colombian necktie. The executioner would first make an incision under the convict's chin using a blunt knife and then pull out his tongue, leaving him to choke to death. The Colombian necktie is often associated with Pablo Escobar. He's considered to be its creator, but that couldn't possibly be true because he wasn't even born when the Civil War started. Iron Maiden.
That is so fucked up.
The next method comes from the end of the 18th century. It's an iron cabinet designed so that a person can stand inside of it. It had a small door loaded with sharp spikes on the inside, usually made of nails or knives. This brutal device was called the Iron Maiden, so it's not surprising that a famous British heavy metal group decided to use it as the name of their band. The device was used for interrogation and torture of suspects, so they would confess their crimes. When the victim was inside of the cabinet, the executioners would close the door. However, the torture didn't stop there, because their spikes were designed so that their sharp tips couldn't pierce through the vital organs. In that way, the victim would stay alive and die slowly unless they answered executioners' questions.
Oh my god, that's
Most
terrifying.
of the victims didn't even get to confess, since they would bleed to death too quickly.
That's so fucked up.
Torture. Bamboo is the fastest
But you can't even...
evergreen plant from the grass family. Some types of bamboo can grow up to 20 to 40 inches in only one day. During World War II, the Japanese used this plant to torture their prisoners. They would tie a victim above a young bamboo shoot, and the fast-growing and sharp plant would penetrate the prisoner's body, eventually growing through them in a couple of days. Many people were skeptical about this, so the popular Mythbusters created a replica of a human body out of a material with the highest resemblance to human flesh. They proved that the bamboo took only 3 days to penetrate their replica. The brazen bullet.
But how's it that sharp to go through you? That doesn't make any sense. Is it that sharp, really?
Criminals were punished in an unusual and extremely painful way. There was a brazen device shaped like a life-size bull, hollow from the inside, and with a door on its side large enough for a grown person to go through it. The prisoner would be locked inside the bull, and then the executioner would light a fire under it. The fire would burn until the bull turned red, or the temperature went over 700 degrees. The victims would die a slow and painful death. The interior of the device had special pipes constructed so that they made the prisoner's screams sound like a roar of a raging bull.
Oh my god.
The interesting thing is that the inventor of the device bragged so much about his creation that the ruler tricked him into going inside to prove his invention worked.
Oh
They
my
lit
god.
the fire and let him scream to test if it really sounded like a raging bull. When they saw that everything was working properly, they opened the door and let the half-roasted man out. Slow slicing, lynching.
Oh my god.
Another method of torture which required the victim to stay alive as long as possible comes from China. This kind of torture was intended for those who committed heaviest of crimes, such as murder or treason. This method of execution was named lynching, which translates to slow slicing. The victim was tied to a tree in a public place, and the executioner would start by slicing the victim's fingers and toes, moving to hands, feet, ears, nose, and eventually cutting off whole limbs.
Oh
After
my
all of
god.
that, the convict would be killed by a stab to the heart. This method was also used as a spiritual punishment. because according to Confucius, if the body wasn't whole, the soul also wouldn't be whole in the afterlife.
Oh
Sawing.
my god.
This incredibly cruel method of execution was used during the Middle Ages in Europe, and it was
So-
often connected with the Roman Emperor Caligula, since it was popular during his reign. He was so inclined to this method of torture that he even used it to execute some of his family members. The victim would be hanged on a tree by their feet. Then, the executioner would cut the victim from the crotch to the head with a saw.
Oh
Since
my
the victims were
god.
hanging upside down, there was enough blood flowing to their brains to stay alive and conscious until the saw hit the main artery of the abdomen. The executioner would sometimes even pause when reaching the abdomen, so the victim would experience even more pain.
Oh my
Rat
god.
torture. This particularly horrendous
so
method
fucked
of
up, I don't even
execution,
understand.
originating from medieval China, is described as the most brutal type of torture ever created. Rat torture included placing live rats on a prisoner's naked body, usually the abdomen, and then covering them with a ceramic bowl. A vast amount of burning charcoal was then placed on the bowl, heating it gradually. The rats, terrified by heat, would instinctively start trying to find a way out by clawing and biting through the victim's flesh. An extremely small number of victims would survive this. Most of them would die of intense internal bleeding or blood poisoning from the infected wounds. Blood eagle. The blood eagle method is mostly associated with Nordic
This is so
countries.
horrendous, I don't even
The
understand.
executioner would stab the victim from the back, then carefully slice through their ribs and pull the lungs through them, after which they would look like wings. They were extremely cautious while pulling out the lungs, so they wouldn't damage them. They wanted the lungs to remain functional and to achieve the look of fluttering wings. To increase the pain, they would even put salt on the wound. The victims would die in agony shortly after being tortured like this. Impalement. Impalement was a common way of performing death sentences in Turkey. The victim was laid down facing the ground, and their hands and feet were tied with ropes. The ropes were pulled in the opposite direction, straining the victim's body. The executioner would then grease up the stake. Its end wasn't sharp, so it wouldn't damage vital organs and cause immediate death. The stake was slowly inserted through the anal cavity, which was stretched beforehand so the stake would be able to fit inside.
Oh my
The
god.
executioner would then slowly hit the bottom of the stake with a mallet, impaling the victim. Their body and spine would bend under the pressure, but the executioners would use ropes to keep them in a straight position. They kept doing that until the stake went through the victim's mouth, and then they would raise the stake vertically and leave it in that position while the victim was dying in agony. The person most famous for using this method was Vlad, the Wallachian Duke, who earned the nickname Tepish, which translates to the Impaler, because of the way he dealt with the Turks. He
I'm
first saw
so
this
fucked up
method
right
when
now.
he was
I just
imprisoned
feel-
in Istanbul. A well-known legend says he cut down a whole forest and used the wood for stakes, committing mass impalement of 20,000 Turks, and leaving them like that to intimidate the enemy. Upon seeing this horrifying scene, the Turkish Sultan, who marched on Vlad with 5 times more soldiers than him, immediately ordered his army to retreat. Scaphism, the boats. Scaphism was invented by the ancient Persians, and it's one of the most brutal execution methods on this list. The victim was placed inside of a small boat, and another boat was screwed on top of it. The victim's torso was inside the boat, and their arms, legs, and head were sticking outside through specially designed holes. Executioners would then force-feed victims with milk and honey in order to induce violent diarrhea, which would eventually fill the boat's interior, enabling insects and parasites to feed on the victim's flesh. This led to gangrene, since the insects would penetrate the victim's body and cut off the blood flow. The body was also covered with honey, especially sensitive body parts such as the face, eyes, ears, and mouth, in order to attract even more insects. The victim was then left to decay, exposed in the sun. This process was lengthy and could be prolonged if the executioner wanted. According to some sources, a famous Persian soldier was executed by this method, but before he died, he survived the terror of the scaphism for a whole 17 days.
Oh my god.
We'll show you everything worth knowing.
Who said I wanted to know that? Like, who wanted to know this? Who the hell would want to know this? I did not want to. Jesus, normally I say thanks for the suggestion, but no thanks for that suggestion, because, like, what the hell was that? That's horrendous. Like, who the hell even, how do you even come up with this stuff? Like, the thought that you have to put into this. Okay, so let's see what I can do. I know, I'm gonna stretch your butthole. I'm just gonna shove something in until it comes out of your mouth, and then you'll die a so painful death. Perfect. Like, where do you even come up with these ideas? Like, how do you come up with these ideas? What the hell? Jesus, man, like... Anybody that died in any ways, in any of those 10 ways, and there's obviously more brutal or a bit less brutal, but still brutal ways of dying, so anybody that died, like, really brutally, I really feel for, because I cannot even imagine. Like, the excruciating pain, like, the length of, like, until you die, it's like, can I just die already, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to, like, live through all this, you know? Like, how do you even come up with this stuff? That's what I don't understand. How do you come up with this stuff? How do you even do it? Like, how do you even actually do that to someone? How do you actually do that to someone? I can't fathom how you would even, like, want to do that. How you would even act upon that and actually do it, you know what I mean? Like, I don't understand how you would actually do that. Like, I don't. Whatsoever. Once again, I feel really bad for anybody that had to, like, deal with that, because that's really, like, that's not okay. Not at all. Like, I don't even understand how people do this at all. Like, I seriously don't. It's terrible. Yeah, and I feel really bad for anybody that actually had to, like, deal with that. Or, like, anybody that even had to watch that, especially go through it, like, watch it, especially if it's, like, your family or something, for example, then, oh my god. Like, the screams, like, the, ugh. All the blood everywhere, like, the, ugh. The bodily fluids and, like, your organs being yanked out. Like, how do you even... I just want to forget this video. I want to forget I ever made this video. And I want to upload it and forget I've uploaded it. I'm just going to pretend I didn't upload it. I'm just going to pretend I didn't know about this because I do not want to ignore my brother's screaming, which you probably heard all video, but I'm just going to pretend I didn't watch this video because I do not want to watch this video anymore. So I'm just going to stop it there. I mean, it's over anyway, so. But yeah, that's going to be it. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any more videos like this, please don't suggest them. But whatever your suggestion is, I'll probably watch it as long as it's not, like, too gruesome for me. Then okay. But that was a little bit PUSHING it. That was a little bit pushing it. Okay. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.